CrossFit over the last 2 years has really been up in air, and people have really struggled to see some sort of sense to the season. And qualifying for the games was really disjointed. You could qualify straight out of the open, you could win a sanctional, you know, someone could turn around and be like, you're going to the games, and you would go to the games with the wild cards. So it's really good. My initial reaction is it's really good just to see a very formulaic path to get to the CrossFit Games. And it all starts with the Open. You can register for that from January the 7th, and it kicks off for 3 weeks in the middle of March, starting on the 8th. Important that it's only 3 weeks. In the past, this has been 5 weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see what the 3 week kind of time period will do for athletes, but also for workouts. On top of that, it was done to help affiliates out. During the coronavirus pandemic, Castro and Eric Rose have come out to say that actually the season calendar has been heavily based off that and what is possible this year, because everything is so up in air. So there is kind of contingency plans to take stuff online should things not be able to be done in person. And a lot of the earlier stages are all to be done either in the athletes' homes or in the athletes' gyms where applicable. Obviously, for those of you in the Southeast, we ain't going to gyms anytime soon. So you qualify out of the Open. It's kind of been rumored at the moment, the top 10%, but I'm not sure if that's like completely nailed down. They will qualify then for the quarterfinal stage. This will be held in gyms or in the athletes' own homes. And the top 10% of each geographical area, which are yet to be set, will then throw down again over the course of a weekend, April the 5th to the 19th. And in that end week of May, the start week of May, then the masters and the teams will do their qualifiers based off their Open. So by the end of May, we will have a really solid chance of knowing kind of a masters and teams qualifiers, but also who can go through to the live semi-final. Semi-finals is where it gets interesting because these are live competitions, 10 around the world, kind of based off the sanctional system in that it's being run by the sanctional event managers. And so your big events in, I don't know, in London, Strength and Depth, for example, could now become a semi-final. But as a competition, they're going to look a lot more like regionals than they are sanctionals. So it will be a region-based event. You won't be having, for example, Matt Fraser rocking up to London, but you will be having European athletes doing just that. So it depends how you see it. Like it is a little bit of a shame, but it's also a really positive step. And regionals was an epic competition. There's no denying that. And I don't think anyone's particularly obsessed about returning to that format. Okay, so you qualify out the semi-finals and you go to the CrossFit Games, which is dead set to be on July the 26th. And they've said that date is not going to move. If coronavirus interrupts that date, it will go online. So that's really good to know. In the middle of those is something called the Last Chance Qualifier. And it's an exciting, I say new, it's not new, because actually back in the early days of CrossFit, this existed. We just haven't seen it for a number of years. So the Last Chance Qualifier is for athletes who, for example, in regionals came 6th or 7th, those who didn't quite make the podium or the qualification to go to the games, they now have one last competition to put together a performance and earn their ticket. And again, we're not quite sure what that's going to look like yet because CrossFit is still quite open and quite loose about their plans, but such good news that there is a plan and people can start building to it. And the Open starts a mere 4 weeks away. So without further ado, and me talking utter crap, let's bring in Steve Fawcett to go through a couple of these little things and see what he thinks.
We've just heard about the new CrossFit season calendar, and well, I wonder how many JST athletes are sat there wondering, what does that mean for me? We've been working towards one thing this entire time, and now suddenly it's all changed again. What are you saying to all your compete athletes at the moment about, you know, how do we tackle this brand new season ahead of us?
Yeah, I think first of all, the guys that have been involved in the program over the last couple of years, they're great at not just like homing everything down on just like this one point of the year. Like they're in it to train and get better for like the long term and competitions over a long period of time rather than like a specific 3 weeks of the year. So like, yeah, initially it was October, and then we as coaches had planned the season all the way through for October to be the Open, and then that get pushed back for 4 months. So that was a bigger thing that we had to deal with as coaches for the guys in the program. This more recent pushback of 3 weeks, I think everyone's welcomed it with open arms, because it was just like, oh, thank God, 3 extra weeks to get ready for the Open. Because when you see that Instagram post of like 100 days to the Open, everyone's like, oh shit, there's 100 days, I've got to get fit again. So now we've been given like a second chance of like, oh, okay, so maybe you're not fit enough yet. Here's another 3 weeks. So in terms of us coaches, that's just give us time to put an extra deload week in there from some intense training that's going to be over the next couple of months. A deload week towards the end of February, and then 2 weeks then leading into the new Open schedule. So yeah, it's just a bonus 2 weeks of training is how we see it.
What about the change of duration of the Open as a whole? Have you been working towards like kind of like the full 5 weeks? Does it change that it's now only 3?
No, I don't think it changes much in terms of training, like what we put into the program. We'd actually already, before this was announced, we had designed a 3-week mock Open throughout January. So we're just like, yes,
amazing,
right in my head. But no, in terms of the training, it doesn't change anything. Maybe the only thing it changes is what we likely to be tested on during that Open workouts. Is it more likely to be like a 2-score thing? Is there more likely to be 2 workouts we could fit in that time? Who knows? But I feel like there'll be an extra kind of like opportunity to be able to get not just 3 scores during that 3 weeks. So maybe that's something we need to incorporate into our mock Open, is to, you know, put a bit of a twist on some things, and like they've done in the past in the Open, make some workouts a 2-parter. But yeah, we'll see with that. But nothing's changed. Nothing's changed too much.
Is there any concern in your head that because it's only 3 weeks, if one of those is, say, a max lift, or, you know, an amount of a particular skill set for time, or something like that, that actually it could catch a lot of people out?
Yeah, it could do. But then the argument is that if you just need to get to the next stage, which is top 10%, if it's catching you out, and that's the difference between you being in the top 10% and not being top 10% and not being in top 10%, then maybe you're not fully prepared to be in the top 10% just yet. Like that is always the little bit of a gamble when you get to competitions. Like, everyone has a preference. It's natural clean and jerk. Like, everyone will say 1 straight away. Like, clean and jerk for me straight away. It's snatch for Jack straight away. Like, everyone has a preference, but if you were to test me on snatch and test Jack and clean and jerk, we should still be at that level that we want to be competing at. So it's about just being prepared for everything that you could get tested on, and making sure that your lowest hanging pieces of fruit aren't too low that they're going to be the ones that drop you out of the next qualifying stage.
On that, we've spoken loads over the course of the last 6 months in general about peaking for the right time and how difficult that's been with lockdown. Are you looking now to peak for this 3-week Open, but given now there's a slightly kind of a wider pool of athletes progressing, do you target those quarterfinals or even the semi-finals for your high-end athletes as points when to peak?
Yeah, it's always a tough one. When we go back to when it was regionals time, especially in Europe, the standard was that tight that you couldn't really afford to. There's probably less than a handful of athletes that could afford to, but you couldn't really afford to not be at the top of your game during the Open, because, you know, being just like 2 or 3% behind on one workout because you've not fully kind of like structured your training to the Open, it could be the difference between you qualifying and not qualifying for the next stage. I'm not sure, and I don't know if you know, Lauren, if the points get carried over into the quarterfinals or whether it's white.
I'm afraid.
I'm not sure. But that's obviously quite important. If it does get carried over,
then you go to the Open.
Yeah, if it doesn't get carried over, then that puts less importance on the Open for the top higher end athletes. But if it, if it does get carried over, then yeah, the first workout is just important as the last one, if that's the case. I think I remember in 2014 was the first year I thought, yeah, I don't need to prepare for the Open as much. I'm just going to prepare for regionals. And 48 people qualified, and I came 44th, and I was in 60th place before the very last workout, and it turned into the most stressful Open of my life just because I didn't make sure that I was on the ball for the first couple of weeks and really ready for like what comes up in the first couple of weeks in the Open, which is usually just like low skill engine work. I've just been focusing a bit more on skill development and strength and more regionals type workouts. But yeah, safe to say I've not been making that mistake again, because it was the least enjoyable Open of my life.
So what can your athletes be expecting between now and then? What is it, about 3 months, give or take?
Yeah, what are we? We've got, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we've already designed the program for leading up until 2 weeks before the Open, so we've put a lot of it in. Here's a personal prediction: it's 10 years ago since the first Open, so it's a 10th anniversary. So I feel like there'll be a repeat of some of those workouts, and especially because in 2011, I think anyone will remember who did it, like everything you could just very much do on the spot. Like there was never like 25 feet handstand walks or 25 feet walking lunges, or, you know, everything was just like there. You just like barbell yourself, burpees, or you're on a rig, toes to bar. Like everything was just like very close together in a space. And with the situation that we're currently in, I feel like some of those workouts could be thrown back in as the retest, as it's a 10-year anniversary, and because it fits in well with, you know, the equipment accessibility that people might not have. 5-minute AMRAP of clusters was one, just on the spot with a bar, which would be perfect for a lot of people. And logistically, you've got a bar and you've got 70 kilos of weight. So yeah, that went a bit off subject, but we're putting in a lot of old workouts with 2011 having a bit of a focus on those. But it just like Castro likes to use the same formats of the same like movement patterns and exercises together. So it's just like looking at everything that's been put out there, not trying to reinvent the wheel of like new funky workouts, and just putting people through versions of, or like intervals of, past Open tests, and yeah, just making sure that the bodies have been exposed to those tests as much as possible, well, not as much as possible, in the right way, so that when similar tests come about during the Open, which every Open workout feels similar, like it always has that same feel to it with the intensity, that they're ready for it.
And for those who are stuck in a lockdown, whether north or south, and you're worried because you don't have access to, you know, much else than dumbbells or running, or I know JST Compete are offering an at-home version, but is that enough? And what should people be kind of focusing on if they want to be competitive at the Open, but stuck in the situation that we're in? Yeah,
it is a tough one. It is a tough situation. I think it depends on the level of athlete that I'm giving this advice towards now. If it's someone who wants to be getting to semi-finals and they're locked down, then you need to get some kit. Like you need a barbell. You need to start finding, you know, getting somewhere where you can keep training. Like if it's that important to your career, then you're gonna have to find a way around it. If you kind of like not at that level, but and you still kind of you keep, you know, you commit quite a bit of your life to it, but you know you don't want to go as far as, you know, buying a full barbell set and getting a pull-up bar on the wall or something. Then it's just doing what you can with what you've got. We on the program we're offering so many different versions of like what you've got available to you to be able to stay fit, and we all hope anyway that this isn't forever. So you just gotta work with what you've got and keep yourself fit. Work if there is weaknesses that you can work on whilst you're, you know, in limited access, then turn them into strengths whilst you can. And then when everything comes back together, if it's your strengths that you've not been able to work on, let's say barbell work, if you've previously been good at barbell work, then it's not going to take long until you get good at barbell work again. But just see if you can just keep on top of some of your weaknesses. But at the end of the day, training's training, fitness is fitness. Something's better than nothing. It'll keep you mentally in a better place as well, just to keep doing something, whether it's a YouTube video of Zumba. It's going to be better cardio than it is if you find that more enjoyable than sitting on a rower for, you know, 12 500s for the third time of the week. Then do Zumba and keep fitter, because you're probably going to be happier, and then you're more likely to train better the next day.